This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good morning, Tuscaloosa. Good morning, Tuscaloosa, Internet world, West Alabama. How we doing today? It is a football Friday on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, BamaCentral.com. Yes, we are still doing football Fridays despite last week's terrible result for the Crimson Tide. We're trudging on. It's week 2. We're getting things back on track. You're following the show on the BamaCentral YouTube channel. You're following us on the BamaCentral Facebook page or on my own social media machines at Joe Gaither 6. We appreciate everybody who's found us on their favorite podcast platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon. You can find the show right there. And we're proudly sponsored by Derek Daniel at State Farm Insurance. You can call Derek for all of your insurance needs at 205-758-3391. Call Derek for home, life, auto insurance, renter's insurance, any kind of insurance needs. Derek Daniel can take care of you. Like a good neighbor, Derek Daniel is there. Call and see how much he can save you today. We're going to have a lot of fun today with Mason Woods, and I think we're going to get Katie Windham in here in just a little bit. She's working out some internet connection issues over at her brand new house, but we'll get her on in just a minute. We're going to have a lot of fun today. She's texting me, Mason, apologizing, but it is all good right here. What we're going to do today is go over really kind of do the plan that we did last week, but make it ULM style. What we're going to do is end up with discussions on the transfer portal changes that happened last night. We're going to end up with moving into the ULM game with our keys to the game, our keys to Alabama winning. I'll let you know what I saw a little bit more on their tape when I watched their film. Mason, we found out it's not London Graves who I was worried about, the backup quarterback. It's rushing. It's Hunter Herring. Hunter Herring gets brought in for ULM. 6'5", kind of change of pace, alternate quarterback. The guys on the broadcast called him their Taysom Hill, and he had a quarterback sneak for a touchdown, and he, a little bit of movement right there. So we'll talk about what we see from ULM. We'll talk about kind of what it's going to take for Alabama to win this weekend. And we'll take Dax's voicemail predicting the game. You can call a voicemail line, leave your predictions at 205-462-7340, extension 800, if you want to be a part of the show. And then we'll give our 3 players to watch, and we'll pick some games for the whole week. We've got a slate of 5 games outside of the Alabama game to get into. So it's not a horrible college football weekend, not the greatest games ever, but we get an SEC game. And so we're going to have a lot of fun with that. That's going to be the game plan. Mason Woods. Follow Mason Woods at MAWoods_ on the Twitter machine. Follow Katie Windham at Katie Windham_ as well. Mason Woods, good morning. How we doing?
I'm doing great this morning. Doing good. Still reeling a bit from last week's game, but ready to take a look at ULM a little bit deeper. Not that, we really have a ton to get into with them, as we've kind of alluded to going into today's show. But, there's a bit of meat on the bone there with the Warhawks.
There we go. And Katie Windham, we cannot see you, but that is A-OK. Can you hear us, and how are you today? Don't know if her connection is quite right, so we'll keep moving, and that is A-OK. It's no problem. Sometimes internet just doesn't want to play quite right. Mason Woods, we got to finally put the Florida State game to bed. And
Yeah.
Everything, it's just been over and over and over and over this week. Just everything stacking up. Let's go to last night's news, because I was a little bit indisposed before I started watching the football game. What did the NCAA really start with the changes of the transfer portal? All I saw was one transfer portal window. What really was the news with the transfer portal?
So as I understand it, yesterday, the NCAA FBS Oversight Committee voted to essentially eliminate the spring transfer portal altogether and then move back the winter window to a time in December rather than a period in January, which I think it's previously fallen right on conference championship weekend or right after conference championships conclude. And now it is at least proposed. The proposal will have it take place in the quarterfinal of the college football playoff, which is still, in my opinion, not exactly ideal. I think it would be better if you could get it completely after the season altogether. But I understand that, you do have to worry about academic calendars and things. So I get why you maybe have to give it a little bit of leeway there. Moving it back at all is better than having it right smack dab in the middle of December. So I'm okay with that. And then they also voted to potentially make the entire month of December a recruiting dead period, which would, as I see it at least, basically eliminate a lot of the last second flips that we maybe see from guys taking last second recruiting trips and things. Schools will no longer be able to contact players like right up until the actual signing day. That communication will be cut off a good bit beforehand. So you really have to have your class locked in, have all your ducks in a row well before signing day. So I think it would change things a good bit. I think it helps Alabama. I think it really helps any team that is going to be competing at a high level, playing in the postseason, and then also recruiting at a high level because, while yes, you do have to get things in order, like I said a little bit earlier than you did prior, you don't really have to worry as much about teams coming to poach your recruits so late in the cycle.
Do you think this will maybe revamp the February signing date because maybe let fewer players? I mean, you're still going to have a lot of players pushing to early enroll, but do you see any way that it revamps the February signing date?
I mean, I think it could maybe help a bit. I'm not sure that it's really going to change everything that much,
This is really for the portal, right?
I think the portal is the biggest thing, but I do think kind of, the combination of the two, like with the portal now being in, or, the proposal, at least let's just assume it goes through with the portal window now being open in January as opposed to December. Like, I guess it's maybe even a little bit more difficult for teams to have an understanding of what they need because they don't know exactly what they're going to be losing. So maybe you see teams pushing kids to hold off on signing a little bit until they have a better idea of what their team looks like. And that could, I guess, revamp the later signing day a bit. I certainly hope that's what happens because, I have long said on this show, I'm not a huge fan of the early signing day, the 2 signing day thing now. It just kind of, I miss the ceremony of it all that we used to have with signing day. But, we'll just kind of have to see here. I think the big thing is definitely the transfer portal window, though.
Let's bring in our expert, Katie Windham. She looks like she's ready to go. Follow Katie Windham at Katie Windham _ on the Twitter machine. Good morning, Katie. How are we feeling today?
Good morning. I'm a little frustrated after all this technology issues, but feeling like a boomer. But I got it. I think we've got it now. So hopefully the Wi-Fi doesn't cut out.
Yeah, the picture looks clear. You sound clear to us, so I think we're ready to roll here. We're talking about the change to the transfer portal that was proposed last night, and really Mason's kind of outlining what happened and what it's really all about. And I'm wondering, and I'll throw it to both of you, Katie. You can start with us. If this will help retention, if this will help keep players, Alabama for the last 5 years, at least since the transfer portal has been around, has lost 18 to 25 different guys a year. So basically an entire recruiting class gets eroded out, and you replace them with your, freshman class and 5 to 8 transfers of your own. But so you're losing depth. Well, Katie, do you think that this change will help programs, and specifically Alabama, with retaining its talent?
I think it'll make roster retention more important for the staffs than GMs, but I don't know if that'll necessarily translate right away to more guys staying because the grass is always greener in this era. So what Mason was just saying before I hopped on about, the multiple signing days has kind of taken away the luster. I think anything we can do, it's gotten so out of control with all the different windows and signing, like anything we can do to simplify that, I think is a good thing and a step in the right direction. But it's also kind of, as we've talked before on the show about, like any rule change or playoff format or whatever can just be changed again in 1 year. So it's like, if they end up really hating it, then it'll probably just change back. But I think it'll have to, probably help retention a little bit all across the country and at Alabama, just when you're lessening the windows of opportunity.
Mason, what do you think this will do for roster retention?
I mean, I agree with Katie. I think, like she said, really anything that will simplify this process at all, I think is going to help everyone involved. It's going to help players have a better idea of what they're stepping into. It's going to help programs have a better idea of how they can manage their roster combined with coaching and things, throughout the end of the season here. I am all in favor of any bit of simplification to this process whatsoever. I think everything involved in the recruiting process, involved in the transfer process, needs to be streamlined a bit. It's like Katie said, it has gotten absolutely ridiculous in the last 4, 5, 6 years here. So I am all in favor of taking any steps to simplify it a little bit.
Well, we will have to see how it plays out before we really cast our judgment. But I think it sounds like a positive change moving forward, and yeah, we'll see if it even holds. Like Katie said, it could change right back. Let's move to.
Supposedly, it will be voted on before October 1st. That is what the word is from the NCAA. So we should have an answer one way or the other within the next 30 days or so.
All right, sounds great. Let's see what happens. Let's move on. We've wanted to move on from this Florida State game all week long, but I think now we'll be able to do it because we'll have Katie in the show. You were at Doak Campbell Stadium last week, and so let's just get your overall thoughts on the game, maybe your thoughts on the experience. I know you said the press box was closed, but was the war chant as intimidating as it sounded on TV? Just kind of walk us through your experience down there in Tallahassee. I think that will be the right way to put a bow on this terrible week.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the best way to summarize it is I just really could not believe what I was watching. I could not believe that after a whole off season of positive talk, not just coming from within the program, but also outside the program, that I felt like I was watching a combination of the Vanderbilt and Oklahoma games all over again. I still really can't. And I've had starting during the game and then after it all week, I've had so many people texting me about what this means for this team. What was the deal? What did I see in practice? And I want to be like, well, first of all, I don't really get to see anything in practice. Yes, technically I saw a couple of 10-minute windows, but not anything of, numbers on numbers. About, just what does this mean for this team moving forward? And we'll get into this today too, I'm sure. But I'm like, I don't know if this Saturday is going to teach us anything either, just because of the quality of opponent. No disrespect to Louisiana Monroe. But yeah, I mean, it was super disappointing, super frustrating. Covering a game like that is not fun. Being part of another field storming is not fun. As far as the environment, the press box was completely closed in, so I didn't and it was almost soundproof. So I feel like I didn't get the word chant. I guess when I was down on the field then, but then I was so distracted because I basically got down there right when they were reviewing the Ryan Williams play, but I didn't know what they were reviewing it for because I had been in the elevator and I couldn't see anything great. And so I feel like by that point the game was over. Thanks, Everett. Appreciate the shout out for the coverage. My sister and dad were at the game, and my little sister said it got loud on third downs. And then Tony was at the game too, and he said it wasn't the most intimidating atmosphere he'd ever been. I don't think that's the atmosphere itself was any huge factor in how they played. I think just the fact that it was a road game and Ty's first start and they fell behind affected a lot, because then I think he was pressing a little bit of I gotta make this heroic play instead of I just got to make the play that's right in front of me, So yeah, it was, I just couldn't believe what I was watching, how bad it was in all three phases of the game. One of the keys I talked about last week is really don't want to miss a field goal on the road to give the crowd momentum. And they did a 53-yard field goal that he was well.
Oh, it was so bad.
That's kind of something I'm surprised Kalen's. I kind of meant to ask him about it on Monday, and then I forgot, and then I didn't get called on for Kalen anyway. But I mean, and I know he had said either on Hey Coach or the teleconference last week something about they felt like his range is 55 yards, and so it's but clearly I don't know if he just got nervous or whatever. It doesn't look like his range is 55 yards or 53 yards. So it's just kind of like, especially with all the fourth downs they went for later, which I think they started going for him because they don't have confidence in him as a kicker and they were behind. So they kind of started to have to. But it was just like in that scenario, like, maybe the best thing was just like a punt, and then that game goes differently. I don't know. There's a lot of ifs, ands, buts, because the crazy thing is as bad as they looked and how horrible that game was, it was a one-score game with 11 minutes to go. Like they still could have won the game, and then just made more dumb mistakes. So, yeah, it was just yuck overall.
Katie, why can't this team play on the road?
I don't know. And then like the explanations the coaches are giving don't really make sense. Like Kane was probably the one that went most in depth about it on Monday when he talked about protecting the sideline, which I wrote about. I think I wrote about it on Tuesday though after talking to Quay Russell. I don't really get like what he means by that. Like protecting the sidelines, especially on the road for the defense, because like playing on the road shouldn't really affect the defense that much. Like in ways it should be easier for him. So when he's talking about protecting the sidelines, like what do you mean by that? Like, are they jawing with fans in the stands? They can't get in a good mental space. Like, what do you like? What's wrong with the sideline? Or like you mean it as in like y'all like the guys just need to be pumped up more? And really, there's a Quay quote on Tuesday when he's talking about guys just need to get excited. You need to get excited and be happy for your teammate. You know what I thought? I thought Patrick Murphy needs to come speak to them about Mudita because guess what? He talked to basketball about it halfway through their season, and they went on to the Final Four. And I'm not saying like it's like correlate, like, but I'm saying like clearly some of these guys need that talk. And would they sit like these 5-star guys that are making $1 million listen to a college softball coach? I don't know, because maybe they don't even listen to their football coaches. But like some of them need the Mudita speech of like, you've got to be as happy for your teammate, even if he's starting above you, even if he's getting more reps, more playing time than you, you've got to be as happy for him as if it was you, or like, there's not going to be good team chemistry. Like, which that's another one of the things we heard this offseason from the coach. This team is so close. They're so much closer than last year. And then like, it didn't seem like they were playing for each other on Saturday. There's some guys that were giving their all, but as it's been well documented, since the game ended, or really since during the game, probably there's a lot of guys that weren't. So it's just, did everyone, or did like dozens of them have mental lapses at once during that game? But it's just hard to understand, how can you not come out and be juiced and ready to go for a season opener? I mean, I don't know. I've never played college sports. Never played football. So like, I don't know, but you would think like after it was just so ironic to me that like the video they released, like the day before, which no disrespect Parker Brailsford, he played a good game. He was the one that narrated it. I'm not saying it's him. I'm just saying that Alabama's video, like the first line was that, 240 days ago, last time we were on the field, we didn't play up to our standard. Like that Michigan game was horrible. And then it's like, so you would think, okay, we got something to prove. We're number 8. This is the lowest Alabama's been in the preseason in a long time. We didn't meet like any of our thresholds last year. Like we didn't even extend the like 10-game win streak, like for however many seasons it had been. Like, Florida State's quarterback, we said we're going to handle his disrespect. You would think like you're going to come out super juiced. And like they did have the first, good drive offensively, but then they just went off the rails from there. So I don't know. I don't understand why they can't play good on the road, because like one of the like earmarks of Saban teams is that they like killed teams on the road. They were always fired up to play on the road. They love people jawing at them, Like I was explaining to people like when I was in college from undergrad from 2016 to 2019, or like really even before that, when I would go to games with my family and we would go to road games, it's like fans could say stuff to you before the game, like when you're in the swamp or Death Valley or whatever, they can yell Tiger Bait, Gator Bait. But like you don't have to say anything back because Alabama's going to kill them on the field, and like they always did. Like, and then, but it's really not just, I mean, it obviously is a big Kalen problem, but like, I mean, you go back to really since I've been on the beat in 2021. Like they lost to unranked A&M that year. 2022, they lose to LSU and Tennessee on the road. 23, they didn't lose a road game because they only lost to Texas at home that year. But it's kind of been since I've been on the beat, I've been part of quite a few field storming. So, but it is clearly an issue with this team, this staff, this culture of there's something that's not clicking when they're on the road, which you got some big road tests coming up. So They're still on the schedule, so you gotta figure some things out.
Absolutely.
I think a good point that you mentioned, like as bad as it was, and it was bad. Don't get me wrong there. Like that game was atrocious on pretty much all fronts. But a good point, like it was a 1-score game with about 12 minutes left. Alabama had every chance to still win that game, as bad as they played, as little effort as they showed. And I think that's a testament to just how talented this team is.
Right.
Like they still have all of this talent. They are oozing talent at every single position on the field, that so much so that they can play their worst game maybe any of us have ever seen them play. And it's a 1-score game with 12 minutes left. So it's seemingly at least pretty easy for this Alabama team to turn it around. Should be, because it's not an issue of the players on the field. It is just an issue of getting them to play a little harder.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the two like positives you can maybe spin from this game is like, well, I mean, there's some positive takeaways like Jeremy Bernard, but I think the takeaway of like, yeah, they played horrible and it was a 1-score game, so they do have the talent like that they should be able to compete with anyone, but that's not going to matter, if they're not playing together. And then I think the second like spin that you can like try and convince yourself that things are going to end up being okay is that like it is favorable for the next couple of weeks to figure things out. You have Louisiana Monroe this week. You have Wisconsin next week. Both games at home. Both games should be very winnable, and then a bye week. So you have 3 weeks to figure stuff out. And 2 of those weeks, you actually get to put, film on tape out on the field and try and figure things out on the field in the friendly confines of Bryant-Denny Stadium. And then you have a bye to get guys healthy and to figure more things out before Georgia. So, like, there is a little bit of time to figure stuff out, but from what we saw last Saturday, like there's a lot of stuff to figure out in all 3 phases of the game. So we'll see if some of it gets figured out tomorrow.
Well, let's move right into ULM. I watched their game against St. Francis a couple of times over the last couple of days, and goodness gracious, they look like a bad football team. So if this Alabama team struggles on Saturday, my panic meter will be going off. I'm trying really hard not to hit the panic button because I feel like the dramatics are taking care of themselves. But if this team struggles with this ULM team, they do not look good up front on either side of the football. They got a couple skilled guys, of course, but that's just the way that is. Alabama, we looked at it before we started this morning, 34.5-point favorites against the Warhawks, and really are looking for 3 wins in a row now against ULM, 3 emphatic wins dating back to the 2007 loss that gets well documented. Mason, well, I want to start this with you, with your keys to the game, and I want to ask you, as I set you up here, do you think that Kalen DeBoer has shown the team the 2007 loss as a, come on, guys, we can't let it get this bad? Start right there, and then roll right into my keys to the game are blank.
Part of me wants to say yes, of course he did that, because it's like the obvious thing. Why would you not do this? But at the same time, it is such an obvious thing that I don't know that the point would even get home to any of the kids on the team, because they don't just
show them that tape. He can just show them the tape of their game last Saturday.
Precisely. I don't think you need to dig up this example from before potentially a lot of these players were even born, perhaps. Maybe 1 or 2 when that game happened. Some of these guys, none of them watched it happen live. So I don't really know that the point is gonna get home with any of them. We've talked about this a lot of times on this show with just the way college football is now. I think you've lost a bit of the homegrown kid. Now he's playing his heart out for his school that he grew up being a fan of. Like, obviously there's still examples of that, but on a greater scale that has kind of fallen out in favor of let's go just get the best athletes all across the country and bring them in here. A lot of these kids don't particularly care about Alabama until they get here. So I really just don't know that showing them that game is going to necessarily light a fire under any of them. I think, like Katie said, showing them their own tape of their own inefficiencies and their own terrible gameplay would be a much more effective tactic to use this week.
So what do you think your keys to the game are?
I mean, first and foremost, just effort. I think top to bottom, you want to see all 22 players that are on the field, offense, defense, whoever it is. I think you want to see all of them giving full 100% effort. Fans are going to be not just fans, everyone is going to be watching this game with a magnifying glass, trying to find every single example of loafing that they can. So you better not be loafing in this game, because it will get pointed out and it will get put on Twitter and you will get put on blast, my friend. That's first and foremost what I'd like to see. Offensively, I mean, I would like to see them continue this quick start. You know, that first drive against Florida State was gorgeous. It was textbook. It was perfect in just about every single way. I would like to see them repeat that. Obviously, I'd like to see them maintain that throughout the rest of the game, but I want to see another quick start on offense. And then defensively, you know, this is not a great football team. We know this, ULM, but I would like to see them at least get some pressure, get some sacks, maybe, just to show me that the defensive, you know, the pass rush has some semblance of life, because last week they were non-existent. That's probably my big three.
Katie Windham, you'll be in Bryant-Denny Stadium covering the game for BamaCentral.com. You can follow Katie Windham at KatieWindham_. What are your keys for the Crimson Tide to get back on track tomorrow?
Yeah, I like everything Mason said. I think for a game like this, it's kind of weird because, like, it's obviously not, like, keys to victory, because, like, they should just win against a team like this. So, like, it's more like things I'm watching for. And I'll kind of piggyback off Mason's last point of the defense getting sacks. I think just both lines of scrimmage, like, because you talked about how bad ULMs are. I don't know. I haven't watched their film. But, like, these are guys you should be able to bully. Like, you should not – like, Nick Saban called you out on ESPN for both lines of scrimmage being dominated. That was another, like, staple of his, like, program, was that, like, he always talked about the trenches. You know, you want to dominate down in the trenches. And it's like both sides got whipped against Florida State. So, like, I don't want to see the offensive line giving up a lot of pressure, and I want to see the defensive line creating pressure, getting sacks, getting home. And then also kind of piggybacking off Mason's fast start, I think it would be good for Alabama to get, like, a literal fast start, because, like, yes, they had that good drive to open the game last week, but it wasn't fast. It was a long drive. Like, they need some explosive plays. They need a 60-yard touchdown. They need an 80-yard touchdown. They need a 50-yard run. Like, they didn't have that last week. They need to, like, literally – and this is the type of opponent, you know, you should be able to do that kind of stuff against. So I think it would be good just for the psyche of the offense to see some explosive plays. That's always something that gets the fans fired up, especially in a game like this where the fans are just going to be pissed, like, coming into this game, like, because this is not, you know, the Alabama football program they're used to. So, but anytime in games like this, they're just kind of boring. So it's like when you can get those big explosive plays that get the crowd pop, you know, and then maybe getting some of the more of those skill guys that we heard about all offseason involved on offense. I don't know if Ryan Williams will play or not. And that's kind of an interesting, like, even if he is cleared, like, do you want him to play so that, like, he can get back into it? Or, like, you kind of let him just rest it off for another week. So I don't know. I can kind of see both sides of that argument. So I want to see, you know, some explosive plays, or I think that would be something good for Alabama on Saturday, be able to score quick, just prove that they can do that. Because that was something Kalen pointed to, I think, like, immediately after the game, in the post game, was talking about how they didn't really have explosive plays. And he was talking specifically in the run game. But I think in the passing and run game. And then lastly, kind of to another gripe that I feel like people had for the first game is, like, Alabama's rotations were just, like, a lot, which, like, against opponent like Louisiana Monroe, yes, you want to eventually be able to play the backups, but this isn't really a key, but just something I'm watching for. Like, does Alabama tighten up the rotations in the first half? Like, are they trying to play, like, a base group of guys and, like, only, you know, like, rotating in when, like, guys really need it? Or is it still like, okay, we're, like, throwing everything up against the wall and seeing kind of what sticks? So is this game, like, kind of an opportunity to figure out against a much lesser opponent, okay, who do we want out there for the majority of our snaps? Or is it just still going to be nobody's out there for the majority of the snaps on defense? We're all split in time. So those are kind of some of the things I'm watching for tomorrow.
So Alabama's taking on Louisiana Monroe on Saturday at 6:45 right there at Bryant-Denny Stadium. We'll be there covering all the action on BamaCentral.com. My keys to the game are a lot of things that you guys have already said. I'm right there with both of you, with the defense creating negative plays. You've got to create sacks, tackles for losses, interceptions, tip balls. I mean, Castellanos barely gave you a chance to tip any balls because all his passes were, the only deep pass was to Squirrel White down the sidelines, and that was over freshman Dijon Lee's head. Other than that, it was 4 yards here, 5 yards there, and we'll just take our gain and keep moving. You've got to get after the passer and get after the line of scrimmage. I think that, Katie, you're all over it. And this becomes a key more with Jeremiah Beeman's injury this week and with Keenan's injury last week. So you're down 2 defensive linemen. Who do you turn to? Steve Bolabumwa didn't get in the game last week. I think, to Katie's point, your rotations were too high, but they were so high, but Steve didn't play.
I don't think he was there.
Yes, that's what I think that he didn't make the trip. So was he injured or is he in the doghouse? One or the other. I know you got certain travel restrictions, but what's his status? Can we see him on the field? This will be a great week, I think, to put him on the field. Will Edric Hill step up and not be like what was it? Who was the analyst? Was it Josh Pate or someone else that said Alabama was the absorber of all the blows instead of the deliverer of blows defensively? And so you've got to be the deliverer. And I know ULM is a smaller opponent, so you can get into your bully mindset, but you got to get into your bully mindset right now and stay in it for the next 11 games, no matter who the opponent is. We're the bully. We're going to come strike you, and we're going to create negative plays on defense. I'm really, really going to be looking at the inside linebackers. Will they play better? Will they play more assertive? I do think they're 3 good athletes, but will they follow what their eyes are seeing and turn it into an athletic play where they go get the football? And if they don't, will you, Kane Womack, go ahead and throw Caden Jones, QB Reese, Luke Metz, Duke Johnson, Abdul Sanders, throw them out there. I mean, you've got to find somebody that's in the middle that will be assertive and trust their eyes and go make a football play. So to me, it's really about finding players that, you combine Mason's point on loafs right into this. If somebody's loafing, if you've got, Deontay, you didn't go fire into the hole, and you didn't attack your blocker, and you didn't go. Sorry, buddy, you're out for 3 plays. I know you're the senior leader, but you're out for 3 plays, and one of these young guys is getting a chance. Like you just got to find who's going to play football, who's going to play hard, and so I think it's a big week for that. I would like to see a portion of the GA staff, a portion of the analyst staff, just monitoring effort. Just monitoring. Yep, Billy didn't play hard on that snap, coach. You're gonna have to get him out, and let's get guys out there who will give max effort all the time. And Katie, I think you hit it on the offensive side with the explosive plays, but I think you've really got to instill it into the offensive line that, hey, you do have a young quarterback. You guys have to be the leaders. I mean, look at you. You got top 10 pick, Caden Proctor. Wow, you're the best NFL prospect we've had in X amount of whatever. Okay. You got to play like it. You got to play like it. And obviously, I think Parker played well. I'll be curious to see how they handle the right and left guard situation. Will Jaden Roberts be back in the lineup? I kind of think he won't be. I think you're still going to ride with Gino right there at right guard and Cam Dewberry at left guard. So will the offensive line take the onus of the game on themselves? Because you can protect Ty Simpson, sure, but you also can drive off the bleeping football and give the running backs a nice runway to get up some speed. I mean, Kevin Riley showed some explosion last week, but it was basically slipping through cracks and taking seven or 8 yards there. The rest of it wasn't very impressive by the offensive line in the run game. Yeah, you forced it in the first drive, and I think you're going to have to keep forcing it until it actually clicks. But put the onus on the offensive line, because if the offensive line can create these runways for these running backs while you're waiting on Jam Miller to get back healthy, well, life's going to be a whole lot easier on Ty Simpson, because you're operating in 2nd and 5. You're operating in 3rd and 2 instead of it's 3rd and 7 and you got to complete a pass, and you didn't complete a pass. It's now 4th and 7, or it's 4th and 4. And are we kicking a field goal from 53 yards? What are we doing? What are we doing here? So just kind of play more fundamentally sound football. And ULM, this is a great chance to do it. I don't think there's anything that's going to get the Alabama fan base back to a satisfied state until at least you're playing this Georgia matchup. You've got to win. You've got to win big. But really, it's got to be about the effort and how you play. And so this is a great chance for Alabama football to get back to this is how we play. This is in establishing some baselines along the offensive line and in the effort department on the defensive side, and generating some negative plays that they're not in 3rd and 2. They're not in 2nd and 7, 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5. And yeah, you can call your quarterback runs if you want, but it's 3rd and 15. Let's see if you can get all 15 yards here. So I think that this is really just a great opportunity for Alabama to reset itself for the next 11 games. Let's keep moving. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to tell you about the Crimson Clash just next week right there at 2 Dimes on the Strip. We will continue by taking a voicemail. Dax is on the voicemail line giving us his predictions. We'll take Dax's voicemail. We'll move into 3 players to watch, and then we will pick these games for week number 2 in college football.
Wrestling presents the Crimson Clash. The hottest local wrestling show in town slams into 2 Dimes on Thursday, September 11th. Witness the chaos as social media sensation Big Trouble Ben Bishop brings his larger-than-life swagger to the ring. The man is 6'12". He weighs 15% of a metric ton and is bringing every bit to Tuscaloosa. Feel the heat when our new champion Sleazy C. Caden Newton defends the open title. And don't miss the brutal street fight between the modern-day Kings and the unstoppable force known as the Draw. It's the same weekend as Alabama hosting Wisconsin, so keep the Tuscaloosa energy high with the Crimson Clash. Doors open at 7 p.m. and the bell rings at 8 p.m. at 2 Dimes on the Strip. Grab your tickets now on Eventbrite by searching New Era Wrestling and use promo code RADIO for 20% off. New Era Wrestling, where legends are made and the battles are epic.
And Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback, who is he's been fantastic.
And we're back here on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. You guys can tune in on Facebook, YouTube, on all your podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon. You can join the show by calling the voicemail line at 205-462-7340, extension 800. Our man Dax is on the line giving us his predictions for this week's game. Let's hear what Dax has to say.
What's up, guys? It is Dax. Disclaimer, every post-game reaction voicemail that I send will be directly after the game. I don't know if y'all could tell that or not by Monday's voicemail, but me and every other Bama fan was very heated right after the game. But I've had time to think about it. I don't think it's not a DeBoer issue because every freaking Washington player that transferred from Washington to here, they're all playing lights out. Like every Washington transfer, and very few Alabama players are giving all their effort. And that's what the problem on defense was it was an effort issue aside from a scheme issue. However, I still don't think the scheme is perfect because every time we go up against a mobile quarterback, they absolutely gut us. I think coaches will get it figured out. On to ULM. Like Joe has said, 49-0. I wouldn't be surprised if they scored a touchdown. I mean, Mercer scored against us last year once due to a crazy throw, but they did. They scored. So I think Ty Simpson's going to have around 315 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, say about 40 rushing yards, and then we're going to see either Keelan or Austin Mack come in for cleanup duty. The running backs they better get some more reps. I think Kevin Riley definitely bursted onto the scene. Him and Richard Young are the only running backs right now that are running like they want to run the ball. So I think Richard Young gets around 62 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Kevin Riley, 48 rushing yards. Daniel Hill, about 22, I'd say. So, total rushing numbers probably going to put us around, 200, I'd say, somewhere in there. So that puts us at, Ty 3 passing touchdowns and then 2 rushing touchdowns. That's 35. I'd say we'll get another rushing touchdown. I think Ty might get him a rushing touchdown too. So I'd say we're going to score about 40, 45 maybe. 45, 49, somewhere in there. ULM's probably going to score one. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. But this is the game that really, determines the effort level in Alabama fans' eyes. Does this team really want it, or do they not want it? But we're not going to be able to tell much from this game aside from the level of effort that the boys will be giving. And hopefully they don't just, not give effort because it's ULM. I want to see some bone-crushing hits. Please. Oh, it would be so nice. Please, defense. You got it. Y'all got it. All right, boys. That about sums it up. I'll catch y'all on Monday. Roll Tide.
Dax on the voicemail line, leaving his predictions. Katie Windham, what do you think about Dax's running back take that Richard Young and Kevin Riley are the only running backs given effort?
I mean, I don't know if it's I feel like we didn't get a huge sample size of any of them, so I don't know if it's completely fair. Really, he just brought up something that I hadn't even thought about just because of how bad last Saturday went, that I haven't thought a ton about this game, and the fact that we will see Austin Mack or Keelan Russell this Saturday, more than likely. Alabama's in big trouble if we don't. But we really have obviously we haven't seen anything of Keelan because he's a true freshman. We've seen very little of Austin Mack with him being a third string guy last year. So we're gonna that'll give people something to talk about after this game, kind of no matter what. But we're gonna. I know Mason's gonna be excited for that.
If it happens, I love Dak's confidence here. I do, and I respect it. I am in complete disagreement with him though on the result of this game. I think we talked about it was either yesterday or the day before. I think it's gonna be another ugly game for Alabama. I do not expect them to have it all figured out. I would not be shocked if this is a 14-7 game going into half and everybody's panicking, and then it ends up being maybe a 35-17 type deal. But I don't see Alabama covering. I'm not confident in that, certainly. I don't love the Tide to dominate in this one. I don't feel overly confident that we will see the backup quarterbacks. However, I would be very excited to, because good Lord, the discourse surrounding the moment one of them throws a touchdown pass is going to be music to my ears on the Twitter machine. But no, I am not overly confident that we will see the Crimson Tide jump out to a massive lead in this game. I think it's going to be another ugly one. I think we're all going to be sitting here in panic mode around halftime.
Well, that's interesting. I'm looking forward to your final pick here in just a little bit. Let's get into our 3 players to watch. Last week we did well. Mason, we should have known the game was going to go off the rails when your first pick last week was Danny Lewis, and right going into the broadcast, and Danny Lewis is not playing.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah, so we'll try to do a little better this time. Now, I did think that the rest of us had. I mean, you nailed Nakai Hill-Green being somebody to watch, and he was not really very
not worth watching
at all. So we're going to get right into our 3 players to watch for this week's game against ULM. Katie Windham, what 3 Alabama players will you have your eye on?
I honestly don't remember all who I said last week, but I think you got to start with Caden Proctor just after. I don't know. Ryan Grubb said he played good, and Ryan Grubb knows more balls than any of us. So, but a lot of things like PFF and social media clips would make you think he didn't play great. Regardless, he is a guy that has the physique to be a first-round talent, and that's been poured on him since he first came to Alabama, and then when he left Alabama, and then when he came back. So he is never his on-field performance has never looked. It hasn't always been bad, but it's never really looked like a top 10 pick. So. Like we talked about earlier, this isn't going to be a D-line that should be giving him a ton of problems. So how do you look in pass protection and run blocking and doing what you're supposed to do? Sticking on the offensive side of the ball, inspired by our voicemail, I'll go with Kevin Riley to see. I think he's a guy coming into the season. At least I didn't expect him to get a ton of reps for playing time this season. Is he a guy that kind of moves up the running back depth chart and can kind of prove that he deserves the playing time even when Jay Miller comes back? And then defensively, I'll go Edric Hill just with all the questions at D-line to see a guy that kind of can step up and have a good performance with some other guys out.
Caden Proctor I'm right there with you on that one being one of them. That was one of my original three. I was gonna give you basically the three players that I was disappointed with most from last week, and Caden Proctor fell into that category. But I'll move off of him. I'll give you my other two though, and then I'll come up with a third in the meantime. First, I'm watching for Bray Hubbard. I mean, I think a lot of us will be watching Bray Hubbard this week. I just want to see the Bray Hubbard that we saw last season, the guy that was flying into the play without a care in the world, throwing his body on the line to hit people with the force of 1,000 semi-trucks. I want to see that Bray Hubbard on the field this weekend. You say what you will about him picking on ULM, whatever. I want to see Bray Hubbard lay some blows this weekend. And then Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson was, to put it lightly, atrocious last weekend. He played very, very poorly. He was getting blown off the ball, did not look aggressive, looked like a lot of times he didn't really even know what he was doing out there. So I would like to see Justin Jefferson maybe at least show some aggression this week, kind of, like what Joe mentioned earlier, with just the inside linebackers as a whole, but I will be watching for Justin Jefferson. And then on the offensive side, I got to pick one of these other offensive linemen because the offensive line was just so bad. I'll take Wilkin Formby. Wilkin did not show me. He wasn't bad. He wasn't horrible last week, but he didn't really show me what I was hoping to see from Wilkin. So maybe this week he does.
They hardly ran it on the right side at all.
That's fair.
Which shows you no confidence at all on the right side, which just really disappointing. All right, my first one's easy. I'm taking LT Overton because you got to get some negative plays and you got to create some havoc plays. I know that Kane Womack's used that word havoc about James Smith, so I guess I could throw him in there, but I'm picking LT Overton because he is the guy that got all the hype in the offseason, all the almost sacks, all the fingertips away. I just got to finish. I just got to just finish the play. So I'm taking LT Overton because I do think that this will be an opportunity for him to get into the backfield and create some havoc plays. We'll see if you are able to do that and get your season really, really started. He had one tackle for loss against Florida State. I think it was the only tackle for loss that I can even remember in the game. This was when Alabama really needed it. But then Florida State, the next play, came right back and had a big play, so it didn't really even matter. So LT Overton's my first one. LT Overton's my first one. I like the Caden Proctor and Wilkin Formby mentioned already. I will end up going with an offensive lineman named Cam Dewberry because I think that if you're only going to run behind the left side, well, you boys better be mauling people, which I think you're capable of. I think Cam Dewberry is capable of doing that, and I think Caden Proctor is capable of doing that. But I didn't really love the chemistry that we saw between Proctor and Dewberry last week. You got guys slipping off. You got guys, not working your double teams very effectively, and obviously credit Florida State for some of that as well. But I think that as a tandem, the two of those guys can do much better. So I'm going LT Overton. I'm going Cam Dewberry. Connor
Talty.
No, gosh, no. I'm not picking Connor Talty ever on this exercise. I think Quay Russaw is probably this for all the same reasons that we talked about. For all the same reasons that I just mentioned about LT Overton. I think Quay played okay. I think he didn't play horrible against Florida State, but I think he didn't get enough help. He's one of the 11. And I do think he gave decent effort. I felt for him a little bit when he was basically offered up to the media on Tuesday to defend the defense and
to the wolves.
right. It's like you're not going to throw who are you going to go answer for all these? Well, Quay Russaw will go answer for all of us.
Poor guy.
I think he did fine with that task as well, but like what an impossible task with everybody asking about effort issues and film study and this and that and the other. So I'd like to see. To me, that tells me a little bit that they're trying to thrust him into some sort of a leadership role. We'll see what he embraces. Now, what he did say on Tuesday that I thought was interesting. We've already talked about it, Katie, me and Mason. He talked about Tim Keenan being really the emotional leader, somebody who's going to step up and snarl back in the offense's face. I think Tim Keenan was always there, and it was helpful when that's the defensive tackle, the nose tackle, the front of the defense is going to snarl right back in the offense's face. Well, Tim's not going to be there another week. Who's going to snarl back and bark back when the offense starts pushing somebody around? And, you don't want to get a dumb penalty, but maybe in the first drive of the game, you lay some wood down, and maybe you cross the line a little bit to let them know we're not going to get pushed around today. I think Quay Russaw could do that. We'll see if that's going to be something that he embraces, because the defense was sorely missing that on Saturday. He said, "Oh, Tim was yelling at us on the sidelines. Come on, guys, this isn't the standard." And then, I don't know that anybody else that was on the field was embracing that role either. So
I think he was talking about actually at practice, because I never saw Tim, and then I think Kalen said on Hey Coach that he didn't travel with the team. Jam did travel and was on the sideline, but I think Tim Keenan was watching at home and wanting to rip his TV out of the wall, because these are the guys he's practiced with all summer, and he can't, and he's watching them just, I can't imagine how frustrating that would be.
Especially with you're like, my dumb ankle. I'm fine. It's not a big deal. I didn't break my leg.
You're starting out 0-1. You feel like you can't do anything about it.
Oh, highly frustrating. So, yeah, I'm going with LT Overton, Quay Russaw, and Cam Dewberry for my 3 players to watch. All right, let's finish this bad boy up by making our picks. I've got 5 games outside of the Alabama game that we can get into. And so let's just start it. Katie Windham, Ole Miss is going to Kentucky, the first SEC game of the year. Ole Miss is an 8.5-point favorite. Will this be the start of Mark Stoops getting fired here soon up in Lexington?
I don't know about that, because I don't know if they're, eager to make a move anytime soon. But I do think, because Ole Miss lost to Kentucky at home last year, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think Ole Miss wins this one just because their players, I don't know, maybe Lane's better at motivating them with maybe they'll have revenge a little more on the mind. And I just don't know what Kentucky has. I feel like their best players from a season ago are at other places in the SEC. But then, they got who is that? Did Kendrick Law go there to Kentucky? I think
yes.
So it is that's like one of my favorite games to play this type of year, is when you're watching another random college football game. You hear, yeah, I know that guy. But yeah, sorry. All this to say, I think Ole Miss wins.
2:30 on ABC, Mason Woods.
Yeah, I'll be riding with Ole Miss as well. Give me the Rebels.
Hotty toddy, gosh almighty, we'll make it 3 in a row. We'll all take Ole Miss. We'll move on to Kansas as at Missouri. Probably, honestly, my most looking forward to game of the weekend. I know that's not proper English. The game I'm most looking forward to. There we go. 2:30 on ESPN. Kansas is at Missouri. Missouri is a 6.5-point favorite. The border war is revived, Katie Windham. Will our Missouri contingent be happy?
Yeah, just to keep it in the Christopher Walsh on SI Network, I'll pick Mizzou. I don't know a ton about either team, so yeah, I'll go MIZ. Love to see games like this getting to get played and some old rivalries renewed.
I'm torn on this game, honestly. I don't really know a ton about both teams. I know Kansas has an electrifying quarterback, and I know Missouri seemingly has an electrifying quarterback after last week. So I'm a little torn. I think I'm going to ride with Kansas just because I know their quarterback's got a little bit of seniority there. So probably take the experience in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you, Mason. So I'm taking Ole Miss minus the 8.5. I'm taking Kansas plus the 6.5 at Missouri because Jalen Daniels and Emmanuel Henderson is going to be out there. Emmanuel Henderson had a good game this past week for Kansas, and they're 2-0. So they played on week 0. They've got another week under their belt than Missouri, and I'm not really sure what to make of Missouri's win against Western Tech School for the blind and dumb. So they obviously won 61-6, but I'm not real sure what to make of that. I'm going to take Kansas plus with the points. I think they're going to win straight up. So if you're that would probably be my big bet. If I had $100 to wager, I think I'd wager on Kansas plus 6.5. We'll keep rolling here. South Florida had a big win over Boise State in the first week. They're taking on the Florida Gators at what time? 3:15 on SEC Network. The Florida Gators are a 17.5-point favorite. Will Florida avoid the upset, Katie?
I bet ESPN's wishing they had put that game on a bigger station now after the USF upset last week. But I don't think that – you said it's in the Swamp?
Yes.
I'm going to pick Florida then. Yeah, I feel like they, with TJ Lagway, have, a lot of hype coming into the season, a lot of confidence in him. It's in the Swamp. Going Gators.
Yeah, I'm with Katie. I think Florida wins this game, but I do think South Florida covers at 17.5. I think it'll be closer than Florida fans are hoping this is.
Man, Mason, you and I are seeing it the same way as well. I think Byron Brown's going to be hard to handle and going to keep this thing pretty close throughout the night, but Florida will come away with a victory, and we'll be doing all the, oh, man, is Florida not good, or is South Florida actually good talk? So,
yeah, it'll be DJ Lagway sucks, and he'll maybe have thrown one interception.
At 6:30 on ESPN2, Katie, just 15 minutes before Alabama takes on ULM, Arizona State has traveled across the country to take on Mississippi State. You've got the Sun Devils are a 5.5-point road favorite. God, that's horrible if you're a Mississippi State fan. Can Mississippi State pull off the home upset?
I mean, apparently Arizona State can't find a hotel within an hour of Starkville, so I think they're going to be real tired pulling up to the stadium. I'll just stick with my SEC picks this week, and I'll go Mississippi State. Jeff Lebby, after watching them on the Netflix documentary, yeah, I'll go Mississippi State. Do I think that's really going to happen? Probably not, but that's my pick. I'm putting on the record.
Yeah, I can't do it. I think Arizona State wins this one. I do like Jeff Lebby in Mississippi State. I want to put that on the record. I like what he's doing there. I think if they give him time, it will work. I just don't think it's going to work right now.
The biggest thing, you had the hotel comments, but you also saw Arizona State staffers, 3 staffers with 2 or 3 cowbells ringing them at the practice, and I'm like, what is that even gonna do? Ding, 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 ding. It's gonna go
they're in for a rude awakening.
Yes. The cowbell simulation was pretty poor at Arizona State this past week, but I do think Sam Leavitt is a really good quarterback, and so I think Arizona State is probably going to win and cover this 5.5-point spread. Last big game before we get into Alabama and ULM final picks is Michigan at Oklahoma. The Sooners a 5.5-point home favorite. This game is 6:30 on ABC, so it's on the main channel in the main hole right there. What's going to be the Bryce Underwood hype after week number 2, Katie Windham?
I don't know. Week 1 wasn't very kind to hyped up quarterbacks, so I don't know. I'll just keep sticking with the SEC, and I'll go with Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm Boomer Sooner on this one. I think DJ Underwood's a very good quarterback. He, the amount of accuracy and velocity he showed on his throws last week against New Mexico State, mind you, was still impressive. But I think he comes back to earth a little bit this week.
We'll make it 3 in a row. I'm going to take Boomer Sooner to pull off the home win as well. I do think that it's going to probably be a really great game. I think it's going to be a great game, so I'll take Michigan plus the 5.5. But I think that Oklahoma will end up pulling out a win right there, and Brent Venables will end up feeling really good about themselves. They'll have a nice win to keep their season 2-0. And so that they were so nice to us last year, despite the win, despite the loss. So I'll be pulling for Oklahoma in that matchup. All right, guys, we are near the end of the hour, so perfect timing here. We need to circle back and make our final comments and picks for Louisiana Monroe at Alabama, number 21, Alabama. Oh, my Lord. Alabama is a 34.5-point favorite at 6:45 on SEC Network. You can follow all the coverage at BamaCentral.com. You can follow all the video work on the BamaCentral YouTube channel. Katie Windham's going to be tweeting. I'll be tweeting. Hunter DeCyver will all be tweeting about the game. So, Katie Windham, leave us your final comments, and what do you think happens in Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saturday?
I don't agree with Mason's take earlier. I really think we'll be in panic level of 1 billion if it's 14-7 at halftime. I think they will come out and do what they're supposed to do, because how can you not, after all the negative attention you've gotten? And I think a lot of these players have pride. Now, whether it's in their university and playing for the name on the front, I don't know. I think a lot of them have pride in themselves and their NIL deals. So, and if your team is bad and you're bad, you're not going to get, the NIL deals you once did. So that was me being unnecessarily negative. But I think I will pick them to win and cover. Obviously, they're going to. Well, I shouldn't say obviously they're going to win after what we saw on Saturday, but I don't know how many other times this year I'm going to pick them to cover after what we saw last Saturday. I've been burned way too many times the last year in the first game this season picking them to cover. I think they will this Saturday. I'm thinking like a 52-3, 49-0 type score. They need that because if there's any sort of, even if it's just like one busted play that Louisiana Monroe has, people are not going to be happy about that. So, which then, you could look at it as, do they put too much pressure on themselves? Because apparently they deal with that as well, as they're putting too much pressure on not making mistakes. But you have more wiggle room to make mistakes against a team like Louisiana Monroe. So I think they go out, handle business, can hopefully flush a little bit of the Florida State game, and then kind of see where they're at moving forward.
I may have, exaggerated a bit with 14-7 at half, but I do not think that Alabama is covering. I just don't feel confident in it whatsoever. I think this is going to be a game where everyone walks away saying, sure, it was never in question, but boy, I am not satisfied with the result. I will take Alabama maybe 35-10, and that's a late 35-10. That's a maybe 21-10 for a while in this game, and it's like, they can hang around. I don't have any confidence in this Alabama team right now after what we saw against Florida State. They will have to prove me wrong before I start believing in them again, because boy, I have been burned terribly.
Oh, I'm kind of split right in the middle, you guys, because I do think that Alabama has a lot of questions to answer, and I do think that Alabama needs a really good win. But I watched this ULM game twice, and it put me to sleep almost each time. They're horrible. They're not good. Oh my gosh! So Brian
Rat
Vincent,
poison.
I know. You're exactly right. It is rat poison.
Florida State wasn't good last year.
Well, that was last year. I think Florida State
Thomas
might end up being.
Castellanos had never been good.
I think Florida State might end up being a 10-2 squad. I looked at their rest of their schedule the rest of the year, the way, and if they're 10-2 by the end of the year, you're not feeling as bad about Saturday.
Still feeling pretty bad though.
Fine, fair. But
if they had played a close game that Alabama showed effort in, you feel fine about it. But it's we talked about it. It's the way Alabama lost.
I think I'm going 49-7. Yeah, I think I'm going 49-7 or 49-10. So Alabama will cover. What is that? That's 39 or what? 39 or 42, basically. So they'll cover the 34.5. But I am more into that prediction because of ULM not impressing me at all. I think ULM is horrible. St. Francis hung around with them a bit and really just suffered some depth issues. Had some guys leave the game towards halftime and into the third quarter that I think eroded their ability to stay in the ball game. I think ULM is horrible, and so I am really going back to the keys to the game and looking for a strong effort and looking for really attacking mindset, really aggressive mindset. If Alabama can have that, then I will feel a little better about the rest of the year. But I'm also with Mason that whatever happens at the end of the day, Alabama's going to win. But most of the fan base and maybe even myself will think, that doesn't matter that much. ULM was horrible. That doesn't matter. We're going to have to see it against Wisconsin and Georgia and Vandy and the X and Y and Z. So I'm not real sure if Alabama fans or if any of us will be satisfied at the end of the night on Saturday, no matter what the score is. We're going to get out of here because I think we covered it all right here. I want to thank Dax for joining us on the voicemail line at 205-462-7340, extension 800. You guys can leave us a voicemail throughout the games or after the games, reacting to Alabama's win, loss, or anywhere in between. You can react to it right there on the voicemail line. Find us on the social media machines at Katie Windham _, at MA Woods _ at Joe Gaither 6. We'll have all your coverage inside Bryant-Denny Stadium tomorrow starting right about about 3 o'clock or so, we'll be in the stadium. So we cannot wait to have the home opener. I hope that everybody gets into Bryant-Denny Stadium and gets enjoys themselves. And really, we'll be looking forward to seeing what the team does on Saturday night against ULM. Katie Windham, Mason Woods, thank y'all both for your time today. We're going to have a great day and send everybody off on a Football Friday right here on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com.